Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Sheridan, and I'm really pleased to be here tonight with you. I am a professor at the University of Illinois in Chicago, and I am currently engaged in teaching here at the university and conducting research and writing about online professional development for early childhood teachers and the STEM content area. All of you should be able to hear me. Can you just give me a wave if you can hear me? Yay. Okay. I see people waving. Great. Well, I'm curious about who you are. So I'm wondering if in the chat box you could answer, well, no, actually, not this one in the chat box. Just raise your hand if you are a family childcare provider. Curious how many of you are family childcare providers. I see a few. We love our family childcare providers. How about you could put your hands down? How about center-based childcare providers, teachers? Raise your hand. See a couple. What about school-based? Raise your hand if you're school-based. Oh, a lot of you. Okay. Looks like most of you. All right. What about other? What if you're none of those things? Can you put down what you do if you're other in the chat box so I can see it? I see a number of people typing. That means that we have definitely. Oh, okay. So preschool for all educators, resource specialists. Okay, coaches, parent educators, instructional coaches. Okay, great. We've got a bunch of educators, coaches, um, and research specialists. This is fantastic. I'm great. Well, this is great. I'm hoping that you'll really get something useful out of this. I'm positive you will. So, welcome, and we'll get started. Before I get started, does anybody have any question for me before we start? If you do, just write it in the chat box, and I'm just going to take 30 seconds to look. Somebody's having trouble, Karen, raising their hand. I don't know if you can help. Karen Finkler's having trouble raising her hand. Okay, blended preschool. Okay, I'm seeing other jobs. All right, perfect. Okay, well, if you end up having any troubles or problems, just write it in here, and Karen is still on the line, and she will help you, I'm sure. So what I'd like to do is just start with a little icebreaker activity to get us oriented around mathematics. So here we go. Now, what I'd like you to do is answer the question that's asked in the chat box. So get ready to answer the question. After each slide, there'll be, you will write an answer. So here we're going to go. It's going to go quickly. So what can you see quickly? Here we go. Okay, I see a whole bunch of people writing that they saw 4. I want you to keep in mind, sort of just keep it in the back of your mind, like how long was the visual up on the screen? So just keep that in the back of your mind. We'll talk about that in a second. Here we go. Here's another one. How many? I'm going to go back to it. So a lot of you wrote 3. Okay. How about this one? Next one. Still seeing a whole bunch of 3s. Okay. We're going to go to the next one. You ready? How many? A lot of 4s. Oops, somebody said 5. I'm going to go backwards so you can see it. All right. And we'll go to the next one. Ready? Here we go. All right. So we almost all of us were able to see these amounts correctly. So in the screen, write down how long you think the visual was up on the screen. How long do you think that visual? Less than a second, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, less than a second, less than a second. Yeah. So we all know it was up a really short amount of time. It was up definitely less than a second. So if they were up less than a second, so here we go. That's how fast it was up there. How do we know what was up there? How do you know it? Write what you think in the chat box. How do you know? How did you know how much was on that screen? And almost every single one of you got every single one of them right. How did you know? Quick counting. That's a really interesting answer, Sarah. Visual memory. Some of you actually know the term subitizing, are very familiar with it. Somebody just said, I just know, Gretchen. Memory, visual memory, visual memory. Okay. So perceptual subitizing is when we perceive the 3 or 4 dots intuitively, just simultaneously at the same time as we see it, we know it. So whoever wrote, I just know, right? It is something you just know. Now, you can't just know it unless you know something about quantity and you know something about the names that we give to each of the amounts, right? So you have to know that first. However, all of us are born with accumulators in our brains, like babies have an accumulator in their brain, as do some animals, by the way. And what we can do when we're born is we can see the difference between 1 and more. So we can see the difference between 1 and more. However, I don't think it works very well once the numbers get very large. But this perceptual subitizing is something that our visual memory is able to immediately attach to this quantity. And somebody mentioned counting, but you know there's no way we could count if we look at this like this. You can't really go 1, 2, 3. Your brain just knows it. Sorry you lost your sound, Vicki. I think everybody can still hear. So not sure what's going on there. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to take some other quick looks, and let's do the same thing again. Are you ready? Here we go. How many? Okay, most of you are saying 7. A few have another. Well, that's not surprising to me because we have more than 4 objects up there, 5. So it's a little bit harder to perceive. And Desiree didn't see anything, so I'm going to go backwards. Ready? There it was again. So that's up so quickly, yet almost everybody was able to see it. Ooh, somebody saw 3 and 4. You actually saw the pieces and put it together. Let's look at the next one. Here we go. So most of us saw 8. I'm going to go backwards so you can see it. So when you saw it that quickly, we'll talk about how you saw that in a minute. Let's go to the next one. Ready? How many? 9. Yep. Great. Oop, I was up a little long there. Everybody's like, yeah, 15. But there you go. Here's another one. Did you see it? Some of you, yeah, 22. I mean, and that some of you are already still thinking about the other one, and yet you got this one just by so quick. I missed it. I'm going to go back. Ready? Here we go. I'll go back to it. There it is. So this is really interesting because now we've got not the small quantity, but we've got a large quantity. So I want to know, when I put this up like this, how did you know that was 15? How'd you know it? Groups of 5. 5 times 3. I multiplied. It looks like dice. So we made connections in our brains and we divided the parts and made it into a whole. Some of us saw, oh, 3 heads, sides of a dice. Some of us saw there's 5 and there's 3 of them, so it's 5 times 3 because it was grouped in 5s. How did you see this one? How did you know this one so quickly? It's in a 10 frame, right? It's something that we know. It's in a 10 frame and one is missing. Oh, somebody counted by 2s. Love that. Although it was up so quickly, I don't know if you really could have counted by 2s. But it's grouped in such a way that you can make sense of it. What about this one? This one's a little bit harder because it doesn't have the box around it, right? So a lot of you saying 6 and 2. It's really still a 10 frame, but it doesn't give us that boundary. Counting by 2s. Yeah, if we're looking at it long enough, we could count by 2s. But when we're looking at it this close, this fast, there's no way we counted by 2s. You had to have seen that whole and then subtracted, or seen that whole and realized what was missing and added, right? Not as concrete, right? So what about that one? 9, 6 and 3, 9, 8 and something. Missed it. So Suzanne says, I think I'm faster on the dice shapes because I wasn't raised on 10 frames. That's interesting. I'm going to do it one more time for those of you who missed it. Ready? So we're pretty close, right? How did you see this one? Those of you who got 9 right away, what'd you see? What'd your brain do? You saw groups of 3? So 3 on the top left, 3 on the bottom left, and then group the other 3? Somebody else said, Megan said it. Well, you know what? It was such an odd grouping, I couldn't do it quick enough. It wasn't grouped like in a 10 frame or in a 5 frame. They weren't in, Tuska says they weren't in a recognizable pattern, so I didn't really get it. I got it wrong. So some of us were able to visualize really quickly. In others of us, it was just too fast because it wasn't in a 10 frame. It wasn't like the shape of a dice. We actually did have to do the groupings in our head in this one and add them together. Took longer, yeah. I stared at the dots, tried to count them after in my head. I love all these strategies. So last time we called it perceptual subitizing, right? We just knew, but this one is conceptual subitizing. So what we did was we perceived the parts and then we put it together as a whole. And that's what all of you are saying when I saw 3 and 1 and 4 and 1, or I saw groups of 3, etc. But it happens so quickly that it's really not conscious. Like we have to go back and think about how we did it. So this is still called subitizing. And sometimes people think this isn't subitizing because now I added 4 and 3 or 3 groups of 3 or I did something rather than just know it. But it's so quick in our heads that we still call this subitizing. 2 sets of 3 and then random. Yeah. So this was all just to give us a little orientation to getting grounded in mathematics. I'm curious, how many of you do any of these little dot activities with the children you're with, or with the teachers that you work with, or with the parents that you work with? I'm curious if you're doing them. I do. Some people are raising their hands. Thank you. Oh, a lot of you do. We use clothespins with dots. So fun. Oh, that's fun. I had the teachers make dot cards with different placements on the dots. So what do you, those of you who are doing it, what do you think the value is of doing it? What's the value? Why are you doing it? I'm going to see what kind of responses we get. Students learn to recognize number and count quickly, except for with subitizing, we're not really counting, right? But recognizing the amount. We're looking at quantities, right? And since we're not counting, we're not really doing one-to-one correspondence. Although our brain has to know we're looking at those dots and we're looking at them as a whole, right? Number sense, a sense of quantity, creating a visual for what the actual numeral or the word, the number word like 3 means. Yeah, okay. Giving children the tools to get a better understanding, recognizing amount. These are all really, really good reasons to be doing it. And just helping children start to visualize what these things are. Obviously, we can't really do it before children understand that the number 3 means 3, right? 3 things, 3 objects, and not 3 objects individually, but 3 as a whole. That those 3 objects together mean a whole. It's always interesting to me to think about the fact that the concept of 3-ness or the concept of 2-ness doesn't exist in the real world outside of our heads. It's a concept. It's a concept that we created. It's knowledge we created in our own brains. And now that 2-ness, that 3-ness, that exists in our brains. We know that that's 3, but outside of our brains, just out in the world, 3 doesn't necessarily exist. It's a knowledge that we created. It's very Piagetian when you think about how children learn number, that they have to create this knowledge in their own brain. And our job, and sometimes more knowledgeable other kids, can help scaffold younger kids to develop number sense, to develop this. And we get to start with that awesome foundation of being born with an accumulator in our brain. So really fun. Okay, I'm going to move on to talking about what I really came here to talk with you tonight about. And that is why we're focusing on math and then what resources I have for you. So we found out from the 2017 kids implementation with the kindergarten, readiness, individual development, that whole readiness profile that many of you probably know about, probably all of you, that the majority of the students, the young kids in most districts across Illinois needed additional support in all of the developmental areas, particularly and importantly, math. So why does early math matter? And I know that it matters to you because you're all here. So we know some things that encourage us and make it actually essential for us to include math in our classrooms and to help parents understand the value of math with their children. Most early childhood classrooms are doing lots of literacy work, which is wonderful, but math is equally and maybe more important than early literacy and a later predictor of academic success for young kids. And I'm talking in the preschool classroom and even with babies. So we know that math is a part of a developmentally appropriate curriculum for young kids. And because we've been learning more over the past decade about how kids' mathematical thinking develops during these early childhood years, and we're learning how important that those early math skills and knowledge are for future learning, that we've really made a push to do a lot of professional development around STEM. So we have a lot of studies that have been showing us that early math is a better predictor of future academic success and all the way to high school graduation and attending college than any other childhood skill. That's kind of shocking because I know for years we thought it was literacy, but in truth, it's math. That doesn't mean literacy is not important, by the way. Obviously, it's incredibly important. But so is this. And some of the studies have said that actual intentional math in the early childhood classroom happens less than 2 minutes out of a day, child's day in a classroom. That's not enough. So there's another growing body of research that suggests that infants develop an understanding of basic mathematical concepts before they even have language, spoken language, that is. Research has shown that number sense in infancy can predict mathematical abilities in childhood. Wow. So, what we're doing with those babies around math is really important. And when we get to our resource, I'll show you some of the things we have for you in working with babies around early math. And we know that children who are exposed to math activities before kindergarten have a better understanding of math in school and a better chance of success in the classroom and then in life, because these things are cumulative. So if we build a house with a weak foundation, it collapses. If, in fact, kids don't get this strong foundation in early math when they're young, it just makes it more and more difficult for them as they get older. And because the way we learn math is a cumulative process, it's hard to catch up after a certain point. So it's really important. We have such a critical role when we work with young children in how successful kids are going to be later on in school and in math. So let's get on to talking about resources. But before I go there, in the chat screen, do you have any questions about the importance of math? I think we have a lot of believers here. So, all right, so I'm going to take you out and show you our Math at Home site. And I'm going to do this by sharing my screen. So if you just give me a moment, Karen and I practiced this, so let's hope that it works. Okay, I'm assuming everybody can.
Looks good.
Okay, awesome. All right, so this is just www.mathathome.org, or you can just put in mathathome.org on your own computers later, and you can get to this free access website that's just filled with resources for you. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the site, what's here for you, and some of the interactive parts of this site. So this is just the home page, and this just is a page that actually is, we call it redundancy when we're building online things, because you have multiple ways of getting to these pages. You can also go to them here. So any of these things are live linked. So you can see that we, across the top dashboard, we have an about page, increase your knowledge, set up your environment, free lessons, professional development. We have a blog and we have resources. And while you can go to them here on each of these, or you can go to them here on each of these, I'm actually going to go to them up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk with you a little bit about the Math at Home site. It started in 2012. We got a grant from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange Group Foundation, and they've been funding me ever since to help educators with regard to math and doing some research around the efficacy of professional development in early math through an online environment. And so this just tells you a little bit about the site itself, how we started. We have about 12,000 users that come to this website every month. And it's well used. It's pretty consistent at about 12,000 every month. You can read more about that if you're interested later. You can see in the sidebar you can register for our PD, but I'll talk to you about that over here. And then on the Increase Your Knowledge page, we have a series of videos here that you can go in and click on. And these are about 2 to 5 minute videos that will just orient you around the big ideas in early math. So parents use this site too. So it's something for those of you who work with parents to share with them as well, because I do think that it's really helpful. So if you think, oh, well, why would I think about data and probability with the little kids, or why would I think people don't have such a hard time with geometry because they think shapes, but they certainly do. Sometimes when we look at some of our lessons, you'll see algebra, and they'll say, well, what the heck? And then we'll link back to some of these videos so that you can see what they're about. And I don't think, Karen, if I go on and click on one of these, will they be able to see it and hear what I click on, or no?
Everybody will see whatever you're sharing, whatever you click on.
Will they be able to hear it too?
Yes, they should.
Okay, so why don't I just click on one of these so I can show it to you? So as soon as I click on it, you see just this little video pulls up. And it's a super simple little video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, even though it's a couple minutes, but I'm just going to show you what they look like.
Most of us would agree that we have number sense, but we might have a harder time defining it. If I showed you this collection, you would be able to tell me that there were 15 objects in the collection. But if you showed it to a group of preschoolers, you might get a variety of results. Student 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Or student 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Or student 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The third child has number sense. They recognize that the number set aloud represents the total of the objects counted. They have one-to-one correspondence. The first child is not secure in number sequencing. This child is not ready to do sums and differences. The second child does not have one-to-one correspondence and counts the objects more than once. We have all three of these children in our care, and it's important for us to be aware of the ways that we can help them develop the skills that we are seeking. For instance, when walking from...
Okay, so now you get an idea of what the little videos look like. And they're very simple, but they really do orient you to those big ideas around early math, such as number sense, and actually talk about how it's not appropriate to introduce the symbol, and have them writing numbers, which is a handwriting exercise, not a math exercise, before they have any number sense, because it's totally out of context. It doesn't mean anything to them. So we have these series of little videos that will help you or the parents you work with increase your knowledge. And I just want to say these are free access. So if you wanted to show these at a workshop that you were doing for teachers or a workshop for parents or anything, feel free to use anything on this site. These are for you. There's no permission needed. They're for you to use. We have a similar set of videos around how to set up your environment. We have one about establishing your daily routine. We have one about setting up a space for mathematics. And we have one about assembling your materials. And once again, they're very short because we know that if a teacher wants to do a lesson and only has, 15 minutes to have a little break to plan, well, they don't have a lot of time to watch a video to orient themselves. So we made these very short specifically for that reason. And then this is a really fun part of the site, I think. And this is the area where you can find a math lesson. And one of the fun things is you can find a math lesson by developmental stage. So for infants, for toddlers, for preschools. If you happen to have a list of the lessons, you could look by title, but you can also just look by materials. So you might say, well, wow, I have blocks today. I want to use them. How are there some ways I can use blocks? Or I have some wooden beads, or I have paper bags. Or you know what? I have markers today, or I have egg cartons. You might be able to find it that way. You can also search by the National Council on Teacher of Mathematics Standards, by the Illinois Early Learning and Development Standards. And here we actually map out all the lessons and which standards they cover. So if I clicked on here for you, see if it'll do it while I'm on here. You'll see that we have the standards here, but it shows you each lesson and which standards they actually cover. So this is a fun way for you to be able to maybe use lessons and say, you know what, I need to do this standard. So I'm going to go and see which standard I can find a lesson around the standard. And then you can also go to the lesson from this standards map. So you don't have to even go backwards if you don't want. You can say, you know what, I'm going to go with these standards. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Let me just see something. I'm going to click on this and see. Yes. So if you click on that standard button, it actually pulls up the standard too for you. So it's really nice and interactive. Okay, I'm going to click out of here.
There was a question if any of this is available in Spanish.
You know what? We get that question. Thank you for telling me, Karen. As you guys don't know, but I can't see the questions right now, so Karen's helping me with that. So go ahead and put them up, and she'll let me know what they are. We get asked that a lot, and they're not available in Spanish yet. And we have been searching for funding for somebody to let us put these in Spanish. And in fact, I was just talking with a colleague of mine about some possibilities we have in doing that, because it's something that I think is so important, but it's something that's also really difficult to find funding for. Everything we've done here has been funded, and so far I haven't found anybody to do translation. The other thing is, and now I have a colleague who's fluent in Spanish, and she's early childhood, and so she can help me, but even if I hired somebody who's an early childhood expert who could translate it, I can't check it. So I have to have another faculty member check it because I'm not fluent in Spanish. I can speak some, but I would be translating each word. So the short answer is not yet. Any other questions, Karen, right now?
No, that's it for now.
Okay. So that's one way of finding. Let's go back here. Let's see if we can see if this. Let's look by material, just for the heck of it. And the computer is working. So, look, here's some lessons using balls. Here are some things using basket. Here's something using bibs. A blank book, blocks, bottle, bowls, boxes, butcher paper, memory cards, buttons, chairs, chart paper, clipboards. I mean, you can see these are in alphabetical order, so you can go down the line, and there's one for duct tape, okay. So you can search for lessons with materials if that's interesting to you. You can also search by age group, but I could also just go here, find a math lesson, and it'll just list all the lessons. I want to show you something kind of unique. We do have these lessons. Whoops, I wanted to go to, not toddlers, I wanted to go to infants, because the infant ones are different from all the rest of them. The rest of them all have a very specific template that we put them in. These have a specific template, but it's specific for infants. And Karen, maybe you can give me the answer. I'm going to ask people to write down just from looking at my screen. What do you see that we built these infant lessons around? Just by looking at the titles, what did we build them around?
Daily activities, schedule, routine.
There, perfect. Got it. That's it. Routines, activities, our schedule, right? Routines. Because for infants, understanding that this comes first and this comes second, just being a part of their routine, that's a part of mathematical learning for them. So when we look at diaper time on and off and diaper time up and down, you can imagine what this lesson looks like. So look at the content areas. It's math lesson for infants, algebra, geometry, number and operations. The routine is diaper time. And then we've divided these up for developmental areas. So from 0 to 6 months, we give you a little background for the developmental stage. We tell you to gather your materials, which are diapers, wipes, and a changing table. And then this is how you're going to engage the children in this diaper time. And it's just what you might think it would be. Oh, now your diaper's off, and now we're going to put this on. This is the beginning of mathematical language and learning for these children. And then we have for 6 to 12 months, and we add some other things, peekaboo and those kinds of things. And then we even have the diaper changing song here. You can play it if you want, so you can learn it, but although you probably already know it. And then 12 to 18 months. So all of our infant lessons have this template where we've divided it into these developmental domains in infancy, and then we have sometimes the lesson progresses. There are different things you might say or do as the child gets younger or older. I'll just play this, see what this is. Curious.
Diaper change time, diaper is off, Tommy has clean pants, diaper is on.
Haven't heard myself sing that in a long time, so that was really funny to hear my voice do that, just so you know. Okay, so that's a look at the infant lessons, and we have, I think there are 30, can't remember if there are 20 or 30 infant lessons up there. So now I'm just going to go to find a math lesson. So here, oh, it used to be you could search just, and everything would pull up, but it's not doing it that way. All right, let's just push this and see if this does it. Okay, so here's all of the lessons that are there. Here they are. So I'm not searching by any particular thing. I'm just searching to see what the heck is up here. And so I'm going to say, you know what? I want to see what this one is. What is probability, Jar? So here we can see it's for toddlers and preschoolers. It's data analysis and probability is the content area. Here are our learning goals. And here are the targets. So these are, action things that we can actually assess whether they learned it or not. And then we have these very scripted. And it's not because we think that you should read a script to kids, but I know sometimes people don't know exactly how to be intentional about presenting a lesson with kids and using the mathematical language with it. So we actually say, okay, gather these materials. And then we say, here's how you could introduce the activity. So you could tell them what probability is, and we give you a definition, and you could explain to them they're going to pick marbles from a jar and decide on the probability of picking a certain color. So then we talk about how you're going to then engage the children with the activity. And we actually give you the language for it, or the parents, who's ever going to be using this language for it. And we go through the whole lesson, and then we end with extensions that you might do. And we give you the vocabulary here with definitions of all the mathematical vocabulary in there. In each lesson, there's also a glossary of math vocabulary, which lists all of our vocabulary, and you can go out to that at any time and look at it. And we always have adaptations, lessons, if you were doing this with toddlers, if you're doing this with preschoolers, how might you do it differently? We have suggested books that you might get out of the library for having, along with this little lesson on probability. We have music and movement things you might do with links that you might want to go to. We have outdoor connections, and we have web resources. We also have a space, and this is really important, for how to comment on this lesson and submit it, and we get those and we read them. So if you say this lesson sucks, or there's a problem, or a link doesn't work, we can fix those kind of things, or we love this lesson. Every lesson also has a printable version. So if you wanted to print this for a file or to just grab it to have it with you, it takes out all these colors and bells and whistles so you can print it and not use up all the ink on your printer. It comes down and you can just print this very easy version of it. We also have this editable Word document that helps you connect with families. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I can download this because it's a Word document, and you can then email it, put it in your newsletter. You can, because it's a Word document, you could even, I don't know if it's going to let me do this while I'm on here with you. Let's see. Can you still see this? Can you still see my screen, Karen, with this lesson
No,
letter?
we just have a blue screen now.
All right, I'm going to just get out of there. That doesn't matter. Are you back to me?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Well, I just want you to know you can take that letter because it's a Word document and you can actually personalize it to your folks. And it says something like, "Dear caregivers, this is what we did around math today. And this is something that you could do at home with your own children." It gives them some ideas. And you can use it as it is, or you can edit it however you want. And then you can also share this lesson. If you click on here, you can email it to somebody, you can Twitter it, you can put it on Pinterest, Facebook, etc. And every lesson has all of these components to it. And I think there are about 120 or 130 lessons. I can't remember where we got to with that before we decided to move on to doing something else. We also have our professional development, which if you click on here, you'll see our Early Math Matters professional development. This is a free professional development series for early childhood educators. It's national now. In Illinois alone, we've had over 12,000, or I think it's 12,000, 10 or 12. I didn't look at our last numbers. Early childhood educators take our series. It translated, when I last looked, to something like 48,000 course completions because there are 8 of them. It's on the Illinois Gateways to Opportunity site, so you're registered on there. You just go in there. If you're an Illinois resident, you click here, and it's free. You get to the courses, and you can take them. Each one takes about 45 minutes. You get, here are the different courses at a glance here. And you get Gateways hours for each course you take, 1 for each course, and you get CPDUs. So for each course, you get 1 CPDU, 1 hour Gateways credit. And it's all in the registry, so it all goes right in there. We do have people from out of state taking them too for free, so if you have friends from out of state who are in childcare, tell them to come here. They register for free on the Gateway site, and they can just go take the courses. They can bring their certificates of completion that they get of each one to their state's professional development, whoever they use, and they can probably get CPDUs in their state form as well. I know a number of people have in various states. So that opportunity is here for you, and I'm going to ask you a question about that a little bit later. I'm going to go here to the resources and click on there. And here you have a whole bunch of different kinds of resources. We have them here by age, here by type. And we even have some clip art stuff on there. We have math apps for anybody who wants to use apps with on iPads or with young children. We have some lists of some really great books. We didn't write these, but we got permission to use these, and these are some wonderfully and recent books. I don't know if any of you have ever gone to the Dream site. But if you click on this, you'll go to it. It's a wonderful, wonderful site that comes, I think, out of Stanford. Oh gosh, I hope it's Stanford, not Berkeley. Let's go to it. Oh, you know what? I'll lose you. Can you still see me or no?
Yes.
Can you
Yes,
see
we
what I
can see
brought
the
up?
dream site.
Oh, cool. So if you haven't been to the Dream site, you should come here. There's so many great resources here for you. So I highly recommend that you go there. And there's some math videos here, and then we have the standards here. And then finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about our blog. If you don't subscribe to our blog, I highly suggest you do. You don't have to. You can always go on here by yourself. If you don't want to go on every day, just twice a month, they come into your email box. And right now, we've done this different ways over the year. We've had years where we had one blogger blog the whole year and blog every day. Then we had a couple of years where we had a guest blogger each month, blog every week. And they're all archived here. So we have a whole bunch of blogs here over the years. And this year, we have Diane Gano, who is our blogger. She is owns a family childcare program called Under the Ginkgo Tree. She specializes in outdoor. She has a nature explorer classroom certification. Her classroom, she does everything outside with these kids. And she blogs twice a month now around early math. And so, for instance, the one that just came out January 16th is called Lessons from the Block Shelf. And so here she gives you what she's doing with blocks and how this translates to math. She's just fantastic. She really is great. But you can find anything, you might, if you want to search the blogs, you can search the blog and say, oh, you know what? I want something on, sorry, I'm scrolling, but I want to see. You can also reply and comment, and you can get some replies back. So it's a way to also be connected in the community with other people who do what you do. And I want to show you how you can search the blog. So let's say I wanted to, I think I can just do it up here. Let's just say I wanted to search for something on wind. Just making something up. Let's see if there's anything that comes up here. Wow. Look at all the blogs about wind that came up. These are all past blogs that we have. This one's kind of interesting. This How Fast is Fast. This is old. This is when Hurricane Sandy was happening. So look, October 30th, 2012. And my colleague Jennifer Asimo, who's now at Truman in Chicago City Colleges, she was blogging then every day. And she wrote this blog about how fast is fast and Sandy's wind speeds. And she gives you some activities to do about how to figure out how fast is fast with children. And on that day, the blog got, I don't know, 100,000 hits because people were searching Sandy in the Google bar and our blog came up, Hurricane Sandy. So that was kind of fun. But anyway, the blog is heavily used. And I really suggest that if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe. It's super easy to subscribe to it. You can just subscribe. And twice a month, you'll get a really interesting post around math in your mailbox. And you can always come on the site and go look at any of these archived posts. And they're all on different topics. There's stuff on tessellations. There's stuff on grocery store math. There's stuff on books and math. There's stuff on, what is Steph? I don't see what Stephanie's were on. She's a wonderful teacher who's now, I think she's now in Thailand. But she was teaching in New York City. But so she did stuff on math, puzzles, and logic. Oh. So what did she do? Math portfolios here. So anyway, the blog is there. Please use it. And I think that's what I have to talk with you about this site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing and I am going to come back to you. So I'm going to close this. All right, we should be back at the presentation. Can I just ask, raise your hand if you've done any of the Math at Home 8 PD courses in the Gateway site? A couple of you have. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that so many of you haven't yet because I think they're wonderful and they're free and you can do all of them or you can do one or two or three of them. How many of you, raise your hand if you've already been to the Math at Home site and knew all about it and use it all the time? Nobody. I'm so happy about this. One person raised their hand. I'm thrilled that you haven't seen this yet and that this is new for you. This makes me so happy because what this means is the parents you work with, the teachers you work with, the kids you work with, are all going to have this new resource. Makes me so happy. All right, and I want to show you some exciting news. So we are going to be rebranding our site this spring. If you wrote Math at Home, you'd still go to the new site, but we're going to be calling ourselves Early Math Counts instead of Math at Home. And the rest, it's all going to still be there. It's all going to be the same, except for it's going to have this color scheme to it instead of every color, which it has right now. So we're rebranding it. And part of the reason we're doing that is because we got an incubator grant and we are developing a companion site called Early Science Matters. So it's Early Math Counts and Early Science Matters, haha, little play on words there. But our science site is going to have all of the same opportunities for you. So there'll be videos, there'll be a whole series of free PD courses that will house in gateways that you'll get CPDUs and gateways hours for. They won't cost you anything. We're going to load it up with lessons. We're going to have a blogger, same thing. And yes, same website, mathathome.org. And actually, you'll be able to also put earlymathcounts.org. Either one of them will all go to the same website. But I'm so excited. This is going to launch this spring. Not everything will be built in it yet. We're still looking for funding. We got an incubator grant to get it started. I got a gift to develop the PD courses, so those will start to be developed and be out in the next year. This site will be up with coming soon on a lot of parts of it. There'll be like 30 lessons up there to start with. And they'll link to each other too. So that's really exciting. So from the Early Science Matters site, you'll be able to go to the Early Math Count site, etc. So it'll be another resource for you that I'm really excited about. So I only have about 6 minutes left, 5 minutes left. So I want to take time to give you a chance to ask me any questions that you have. So why don't we do that right now? And I'm watching people typing, so I'm just going to wait and see. Oh, I'm so glad that you're saying that you're excited and that you'll be sharing it with your teams. I want to do the Math PD courses now. Good. You can just go up and sign up. You can go to Math at Home and go to PD and it'll take you right to the Gateway site and you can sign up and do them. And we're hearing from people, depending on, how much time you take on them, they take about 45 minutes maybe a piece. But it is something you can kind of go and come back to if you want because you can resume. I think the only caveat is if you start a course in the Gateway site, you have to finish it within that quarter, or if the quarter is over, I think you would start over. It's not going to cost you anything, but you get your certificate of completion at the end, and then your hours go into your PD hours go in. So, any questions? Anything else? Thanks, Sarah. Desiree, I'm so glad you're in your first math course. Awesome. Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Beverly. Mary June, let's see. I'm going to scroll down and see what else. Is it okay to just jam in every minute I can for math in the classroom? Yes, it's definitely okay, Suzanne, because you're making it a part, you're integrating it in your classroom. Absolutely. Just using the math vocabulary is a huge part. And you're being intentional about it too, which we know if math is sort of a byproduct, it's accidental, it's definitely not as effective as if it's intentional. So, yes, you definitely can. Cheryl said, when is the switch to early math counts? I'm not sure. We're working with that, but it's probably going to be in March, I think. But it'll be seamless for the user. Nobody will know. I'll be sending out e-blasts and things like that to everybody to let them know when we switch. So if you are interested in knowing when early science comes out, for instance, which I think will also be in March or April, if it's okay, Karen could share your email addresses with me, I think. But Karen, is that true? You can share emails with me if they say it's okay?
Or you can give me the information and I can blast it out to them.
That's the better thing. Perfect. Thank you. Amy said, I was writing this resource down. Did you say the website has math PD courses for educators? Yes, it does. So on the Math at Home site, mathathome.org, on the top dashboard, it says professional development. If you click on that, it says, if you're in Illinois, go in here, you can register and take them. Yes. And once again, they're at no cost, but you don't have to pay for the CPDUs, the hours, anything. It's all a free resource because you deserve it and you need it. And we all need something that we can do at a time that's convenient for us, that isn't going to cost us a lot of money, that actually adds to our professional development and helping children and parents. You use Math Bridges in our center. Okay, that's great. Will the PD courses refreshed each year, new courses? Probably not, because we don't have money. I know it's not going to look like it, but they're super expensive to develop. We update them, we make sure the links aren't broken and things like that. But because the content hasn't changed, we're probably not going to make new PD courses. But there will be 9 new science courses coming up in the next year and a half as we develop them. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you too. Thanks, Nicole. Okay. So I think we're at our time. And I just want to make sure real quick I didn't miss anybody's question. Karen, I've been many times. Good. And I'm glad you still learned something new. All right. I think we got all the questions. And if you have more, you can let Karen know and she can forward them to me.
Thank you, Kathy.